I have to wait for my seconds to count down, you know. So welcome, everybody. I call to order the February 2025 meeting of the Academic Health Committee of the University of Minnesota Board of Regents. Good morning to you all. Thank you to those who are joining us via live stream video and those who are attending in our boardroom here on the Twin Cities campus and by Zoom, including Regent Verhalen, who is joining us virtually this morning. I will note that this is our first meeting of the Academic Health Committee. We're not so special anymore. We've become a standing committee of the board, emphasizing the importance of this to the university and to the state of Minnesota. This demonstrates the board's commitment in this critical area of mission and focus, and continues to build the board's capacity in this area. This change also has a really positive meaning we're joined by student representatives to the board. So let me welcome our student representatives today. I see Abiha Kashif. Abiha, really nice to have you here. Thank you for being here. And I'm told that Peter Smith, too, is joining us as well. So two agenda items today. First, want to present, as we have in the past, like the linkages between, health and our various campuses, and we have a wonderful discussion about the University Health Sciences across the state in Rochester. So we want to hear an overview of that, and then we'll move to the bold vision for the future with conversations with the university and Essentia as the second item. So first, we want to hear from the overview of the contributions that Rochester campus is making to advance academic and clinical partnerships to serve the people of Minnesota. This is the second of a four-part series here to engage the committee in discussions about how the university is serving the people of Minnesota through training and programmatic opportunities. To present this item, we welcome Chancellor Lori Carroll from the Rochester campus. And for those of you who have been able to see what's done down there, it's really magical. It's a wonderful world that they have at the university campus in Rochester. So we're happy to welcome Chancellor Carroll. Well, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler, Regents, President Cunningham. We're grateful for the opportunity to share how the Rochester campus contributes to the academic health mission of the university. And I know the second item of the two for our agenda today is much anticipated, so I thank you for your time and interest. As the University of Minnesota campus located in America's City for Health, sometimes called Med City, we have specialized in developing human potential for health careers since we launched in 2009. It's important for you to know we have two arenas of distinctiveness: our research focus, which leads us to educational innovation based on evidence, and our educational programs that produce graduates headed to health careers. In fact, 100% of UMR's undergraduate students have a passion to make a difference in the world through a career in health. More than 80% of our students are from Minnesota, and ultimately, most aspire to serve as healthcare professionals in Minnesota. Our example here, Dr. Elzen Peter, she moved from her rural hometown to UMR. She was in our first class of students, the Trailblazers. She continued to medical school and is now serving OB and primary care patients in Crosby. They need her, and she's truly living her dream. We're serving students like Hannah with our innovative approach to education, enhanced by the partnerships we have in Rochester and across the university. In the university's new health sciences strategic plan, which informs our legislative request, we identified a shared goal: access to exceptional care for all Minnesotans. In this committee, presenters often refer to the dire healthcare workforce needs, and we nod in agreement. Yet, even with that awareness, I found these specifics from the Minnesota Department of Health sobering. We can imagine the challenges of fellow Minnesotans whose access to essential healthcare is limited. My daughter-in-law just had a baby. Have I mentioned I'm a grandma before? I'm not sure. But there were some complications in her long journey, and I just shudder to think about what could have happened if care had not been available close to home. And we can each think of such examples of those we know and love and all the kinds of health impacts that could occur because of these shortages. And that compassion we share is a catalyst for action because the University of Minnesota is uniquely equipped to address these heartbreaking needs with our 6 health sciences professional schools and our Rochester campus. The development of human potential for Minnesota's future healthcare workforce is a long journey. It typically starts in childhood. We've documented the motivation of young Minnesotans headed to health careers, and for the majority, there was a health challenge in a family member or a friend that created the initial spark. And there were great science teachers and summer camps that led them further, and we hope with campus visits prompting applications. And for many who come from and long to serve underserved communities, financial aid is imperative for this journey to continue. UMR's undergraduate health programs move young people from their childhood dreams to readiness for advanced study and health career launch. Importantly, this Rochester campus education is not a training program, but rather careful cultivation of habits of mind and heart, deep learning of both content and competencies, and highly intentional personal and professional development. I just want to shine a light on the importance of the undergraduate piece of the academic journey to a health career. Sometimes the professional schools wish they had more applicants from underserved rural and urban communities. I've heard some people suggest there's a clog in the pipeline at this earlier stage of education, with first-generation students from underserved communities more likely to drop out of pre-health programs when they're 19 or 20 years old. Squandering the precious commodity of human potential is just not acceptable. I know you agree with that. And what we do in Rochester is a distinctive and essential contribution, using best practices in education to support the success of undergraduate health science students from all kinds of backgrounds. We are strengthening the pipeline of well-prepared students ready for advanced study. I want to share what we're doing programmatically in Rochester, noting the many opportunities to do more, and then how we're supporting the success of future health professionals. First, the what. Any Minnesotan interested in nearly any health career is invited to start their academic journey at the specialized Rochester campus. Our faculty have carefully crafted the curriculum to support students as they move from a general aspiration to the discernment of a more specific health career pathway in one of these 6 areas of focus. Our innovative coursework sequence allows health sciences students to start with foundational learning and move towards specificity, supported by success coaches serving as career guides. Many students experience a health career dream shift during their 2nd year, and importantly, given the structure of our curriculum, that shift does not slow their progress toward graduation. The individualized and highly flexible final year capstone serves strategically as a transition to advanced study or career launch, sometimes with work-based learning or tailored coursework in partnership with one of our professional or graduate schools. With academic partners, we have also structured several Get Forward Faster options that leverage the flexible final year, reducing the overall cost for students and getting them out sooner to serve Minnesota communities. For example, without leaving Rochester, students can transition in their senior year from their undergrad UMR journey to the occupational therapy doctoral program, shaving a full year off the total journey to career launch. You can see in the docket a full list of current Get Forward Faster and other UMR partnership programs. And the Rochester campus is ready to work with university partners to form even more of these streamlined pathways, a key action item identified in the Health Science Strategic Plan. Now, we've done the what, the how. How are we approaching student learning and development? And just why are students from underserved communities more likely to succeed at UMR and be prepared to increase Minnesotans' access to exceptional health care? Research informs our practice in and out of the classroom. We're the only campus in the country where all faculty focus their primary research on student learning and development. And we have an institutional commitment to put in place those practices that fuel success for students bound for health careers. So first, every course is health career relevant. For example, Intro Philosophy uses medical ethics cases to teach core concepts. That relevancy keeps students motivated, and they can see the direct connection of their learning to their aspirations. In every course, students engage in active team-based learning, replicating most healthcare workforce environments. Experiential learning is provided to all as well, including community engagement, embedded in required coursework. And that builds on their desire to help people, that is, to work for the common good. We focus on creating a strong sense of belonging, in part through living learning communities for all first-year students. A strong sense of belonging is another variable associated with timely degree completion. I've mentioned the Success Coach providing personal guidance to health career pathway progression and teaching required courses that guide health career exploration. Our many partnerships within Mayo's research, clinical, and education shields provide opportunities for students to pursue internships, shadowing, and other work-based learning in walkable proximity to campus. And most of that walk is not outside, which is very nice on a day like today. Students have the opportunity to engage in cutting-edge research experiences on a wide array of topics designed to improve health outcomes. They are supported by mentors and participate in many specialized events and gatherings with health professionals. Finally, we also focus on well-being. The developmental challenges and pressures are novel for health students, and in many health professions, you know, burnout and depression impact long-term retention. So with our School of Nursing partners and others, we host the Center for Flourishing Healthcare Communities. Let me share just a couple of stories of young alumni. Of course, at Rochester, they're all young, the alumni, with our first class in 2013. But these are folks from the Rochester campus who have made their way to serving Minnesotans through careers in health. In pre-med and patient care, there's Nick Baker. He came to UMR from White Bear Lake, and using one of our many Get Forward Faster options, he's now serving as a surgical first assistant. He had the good fortune to marry another UMR student, Elsa, who's now a nurse, thanks to our partnership with the School of Nursing, which is expanding exponentially in Rochester, by the way. Nick and Elsa just welcomed their fourth child. Nick is grateful for the speed at which he was able to launch his career and the team-based learning he experienced as an undergraduate that replicated what is expected in his work. Just skip to the end there and you'll see Mohammed Adani in research discovery and cures. He began his life in Somalia, escaped war as a child, was educated in the Middle East through extreme sacrifice by his family, who eventually immigrated to Rochester. And while a UMR student, he tutored local Somali youth in STEM subjects. Mohammed is defending his dissertation today. His topic is health equity in regenerative medicine, and he and his wife are expecting their first child this spring. So soon to be, I'm sure, Dr. Adani credits his undergraduate research experiences at UMR for opening doors to his career pathway. I could tell these stories all morning. Check the docket. There are more alumni stories there. Alumni serving Minnesota's healthcare needs. Each of these health professionals credits the distinctive education at UMR with their current success. We know it really had just a whole lot to do with their hard work. Our place matters. The downtown region of America's City for Health is a dream location for students aspiring to careers in health. It's impossible for our students to get to or from class without encountering patients and health professionals. With 3 million patients and their companions visiting our location each year and tens of thousands of healthcare employees in downtown Rochester, a student waiting for a latte is likely to hear In front of them, maybe a patient talking about their hope for healing, and behind them, a couple of health professionals discussing the latest advancement toward cures. Every leased UMR space is in walkable proximity to opportunity for health career development. Many of the organizations whose logos you see on this slide have research facilities in Discovery Square, a life sciences ecosystem where UMR has labs and active learning classrooms. For example, our students, including many who are first gen, attend intro chemistry across the hall from Nucleus. And as a result, they can begin to imagine their futures differently, to see possibilities that otherwise would not have been imagined. So often they can see Nucleus employees carrying a cooler past the classroom, out the door, and a couple blocks down the street to the cancer center. Our place provides inspiration everywhere you look. The location advantage is not just for today's students, but also for future students who will propel needed discoveries, as the vibrant life sciences ecosystem provides numerous important opportunities for the university to expand academic programs and research collaboration, and to advance the goals identified in the Health Science Strategic Plan, including investment in the expansion of programs and facilities so that UMR can expand its enrollment. Every additional student at UMR is an additional healthcare professional ready to serve. Some of you may remember Mason. She served as a student representative to the Board of Regents. I'd like to use her words as a summary of the need and a look to the future. She talks about, in your docket, you can see how she wanted to help people, how she thought about being a physician in emergency medicine, and then had a class that changed her trajectory toward mental health. And she says this: every day, clients and I are faced with the shortage of mental health resources and workers. Clients can wait for months to receive the care they need, and still others may not be eligible for care for a variety of reasons. This reality has forced me to further embrace the perspective of creativity to do the best we can with what we have while looking for ways to enhance the system. I'm grateful to UMR for an education that prepared me to fulfill my childhood dream to help others. I wish she could have been here today to say that, but she's busy helping others. And so I channel her words. I'm very much open to your questions, but I'd welcome your perspective on this question, and more generally, with so many opportunities in Rochester, how might the university deepen our partnerships to lead the future of digital health and more?
Thank you so much, Chancellor Carroll. And maybe I'll start with a comment and a question. First of all, what you're doing down there, I mean, having experienced it, seeing is believing in a bright future, frankly. And you're hitting on all of the planks of the strategic plan for health that we have. You're enabling the workforce, you're serving the underserved, including enticing and advancing people who are underserved for these professions. You're making things closer to home, for people, and you're innovating in a way that we really need is how do people best learn and are educated. One of the things I have a question about is that it's primarily an undergraduate campus, really successful one. How better can we integrate that with the professional programs? Are there barriers for people making from a step from Rochester to some of the professional programs here or in the system?
I think your approval of the Health Science Strategic Plan and the work that's being done now on the system-wide strategic plan, as well as the working group you'll hear from tomorrow for optimizing systems, show that there is momentum in this direction to clearing barriers for cooperative academic programs. And when you see the list of Get Forward Faster programs, you can see that we have made great progress, some with our professional schools and other partners, toward using that senior year in a quite strategic way for Minnesota to get additional care sooner, and also for the students in terms of the overall cost and time. So we are moving forward, and you'll be hearing more about how we might further cooperate on academic ventures.
That's terrific. And this Get Forward Faster, I mean, there's one way to lower tuition is to be able to get your education in a shorter time frame. And you've done that successfully.
That's right. And Chair Wheeler, if I may say, just want to emphasize that the Get Forward Faster grew out of the College in 3, which started with Next Gen Med, and our faculty testing that. And we're really not about acceleration for acceleration's sake, though it has advantages. It's still about evidence-based learning and development and having a deep, rich, transformative, supportive experience in those undergraduate years. So really important that we don't just lop things off and make it shorter, but that we are strategic in the curricular design so students move forward faster, but with depth of learning and development. I just have to say that.
That's an important thing to say, so thank you for that. And thank you for putting the Masons out there, helping to put the Masons out there in the world, which we desperately need. As somebody who's existed in healthcare their whole life, I'm really grateful for all the talented people you have put out there to serve others. Thank you. Regent Johnson.
Thanks. Hello, Chancellor Carol. How are you? Good to have you here. UMR has become an enormously important institution in the city of Rochester, and it's very much respected and appreciated by citizens of all kinds, many of whom have worked very hard for a long time to make this happen. I want to just call to attention that I was able to attend and honored to be there in October when we had Senator Amy Klobuchar, Minnesota, down celebrating with us and talking about some of this college, sort of the 3 and the faster moving forward for graduation, how important that is to people. And at the same time, you had just been out at the White House, and maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that. Talking about, so we're not just great here in Minnesota, we're already out in Washington telling our story.
Johnson, thank you. And Chair Wheeler, members. The Get Forward Faster programs did grow out of College in 3, which is now a separate nonprofit with an executive director and grant funding from Arnold Ventures and Strata. And there are 50 campuses now nationally who are creating these kinds of programs with the varying types of design and then testing the outcomes. So if the undergraduate portion of the academic journey takes 3 years and uses evidence-based practice, can we predict the same or better outcomes than 4-year programs? So we're testing all of that over time, and that had the support of Senator Klobuchar. There was some language that went through to make possible the summer portion of those programs if they did indeed use the summer program. So that was her interest and support.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. President Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler, and thank you so much, Chancellor, for your presentation. That last point, and for the amazing work that you've done here to really spearhead moving this journey forward for what is so badly needed, for what we saw in the health sciences task force, the task force on health in the state last year. And your statistics there are really sobering, I think, and inform a lot of all the things that we're trying to do here at the university to advance health. But the last point you made, I just want to really amplify a little bit. So the kinds of programs, the way that you're developing educational design for health in Rochester is actually a model for the country and is being picked up other places. So not only are you doing great things for the students we have in Rochester, but that educational research that you're doing there on what we all need in the country, which is how we advance more health students to advance a health workforce to serve patients and needs across the state. You're leading in that, and that is serving the country far beyond what we do. So just amplifying, obviously, the amazing individual student stories you have, but then as a university, we're also leading in educational design for the future healthcare workforce for the country. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And President Cunningham, Chair Wheeler, just want to emphasize that I'm the storyteller today, and the faculty who dedicate their research agenda to student learning and development are at the heart of these new models. And I know that's known, but it's important for me to say that and acknowledge that. And also to Regent Johnson's point, this is a community where advocates worked for decades to bring a campus, and only the University of Minnesota would do world-class undergraduate education in Rochester, and it had to be the University of Minnesota. Decades and decades of work from so many, and we reflect their values and want to continue to lead and contribute. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Regent?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for a great presentation. Question I have is, should we be growing faster, and should we be putting more resources at this since it's really going so well?
Regent Hips, yes.
Push us. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I mean, it's like something's going so well. Why wouldn't we do more of it? You know, this is what we're looking for in education, and I think it's fantastic. And I'm just wondering, are there things that you're doing there that could apply to other principles and disciplines as well that we should be looking at? And you know, like in applied engineering that these food plants need, and different things that could be a very efficient way to get education. So thank you for everything you're doing there. You know, we were just talking about is the people of the programs. I think it's both, but I think it's really the people. So nice job.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments that people want to make? Well, Chancellor Carroll, thank you. It's a delight having you, and it's really a boon to the whole state and the health of the state of Minnesota that you and your campus are doing what you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Our second item is to discuss a bold new vision for Minnesota healthcare. President Cunningham and Dr. David Herman, Chief Executive Officer of Essentia Health, will share the proposed framework, including the strategic goals and core principles of this vision, the collective strengths of the university, Essentia Health and Fairview Health Services, and early feedback from stakeholders, along with outlining our next steps. President Cunningham and Dr. Herman, welcome. Would you like to start us off, President Cunningham?
Well, and thank you, Dr. Herman, for joining us here this morning, and for all the wonderful partnership conversations we've had over this past month. So let me start here. First, thank you, Chair Wheeler and committee. We are just delighted to join you here this morning to provide more details, which I know people have wanted more details, regarding a bold new path for the future of healthcare in Minnesota. Our new proposed vision has generated a lot of positivity in the past weeks, as well as some really important questions. Today, Dr. Herman and I will walk you through some of the details, and then we'll be happy to answer more questions after. Next slide, please. Here in Minnesota, we're at an inflection point, and thank you very much to the Chancellor from Rochester just before this really highlighted just beautifully really the issue that we have at this inflection point. Our state, like countless others across the country, faces many critical healthcare challenges, from increasing costs, limited access, and declining reimbursements, to workforce shortages, structural inequities that amplify health disparities. Minnesotans have said loud and clear that healthcare needs to work better for them and for their families. I have heard it all over the state since I've been here, and we have been asked to help with the solution for that. We hear you, to the Minnesotans that have said that, and we agree. What we have done with this proposal is indeed to find a new path forward. Next slide. Simply put, our goal is to infuse the very best of what the University of Minnesota and Essentia Health have done for decades, to expand and extend our shared strengths in service to the state's greatest healthcare needs. We are talking about a newly proposed vision that would fundamentally enhance the structure of healthcare delivery. one that would include the current services and facilities offered by Essentia Health, University of Minnesota Physicians, University of Minnesota Clinics and Surgery Center, so that together we could create a transformed, integrated, and seamless system of care that best supports the health needs of Minnesotans broadly. We continue to believe that there is a significant opportunity to build a transformative solution with Fairview Health Services that best meets the needs of patients in Minnesota for both now and the future. Next slide, please, Dr. Herman.
The University of Minnesota and Essentia Health are very proud to be coming together to propose a solution that benefits all Minnesotans. A new not-for-profit healthcare entity that combines our people, systems, and capabilities to provide a level of seamless, expanded healthcare across the state. Our focus is on transformational change and our responsibilities to Minnesotans and their health. Not a structure or a contract focused on buildings and faceless transactions. Our organizations agree that there are real advantages associated with a larger scale organization and the structure to support it, and how it could benefit patients, physicians, and other professional caregivers and Minnesotans can be demonstrated. Essentia Health brings to the table a demonstrated success in quality and operational excellence across a mostly rural footprint. In fact, more than 80% of our service area and the people and communities we're privileged to serve are considered rural. We're excited to bring our expertise in value-based care, focusing on wellness and coordinated care to improve patient outcomes while reducing healthcare costs. Our hospitals are full right now, but what I can tell you is there's no one that wants to be in the hospital. They would rather have the services that kept them well and kept them at home. We know that healthcare is facing many challenges right now, and we are eager to be part of innovative solutions.
As one of America's leading public research universities, we have a responsibility and a duty to the people of this great state to generate new knowledge, to train our future workforce, to develop new innovations, to drive economic growth, and most importantly, to improve the health of all Minnesotans. Our university is nationally renowned for its medical training programs, cutting-edge research. Also, we train about 70% of all Minnesota physicians were trained at our medical school. And this is a particularly important statistic for rural Minnesotans. While the number of practicing physicians in Minnesota decreased by 9% over the past few years, the number of practicing physicians actually increased in the metro area. This means that the loss of physicians is primarily borne by rural Minnesotans. Our patients benefit from a strong, thriving medical school educating the next generation of healthcare professionals. Next slide.
So what exactly does this new vision mean for Minnesotans? Well, for starters, the proposed framework goes far beyond just the formation of new partnerships. It helps us re-envision the future of healthcare in Minnesota. This new model will help patients, healthcare providers, healthcare employees, University of Minnesota students, and all Minnesotans. We will share with you more in-depth details about the benefits to all of these stakeholder groups at tomorrow's Board of Regents meeting.
We believe this transformational solution is the most effective solution to best serve the needs of patients in Minnesota broadly. This new health system entity will be guided by the following principles. We will put patients first in everything we do. We will operate as a single system, not an alliance of separate facilities or contracts or a mere holding company that is hard for patients to navigate. We will allocate investments and resources where they can do the most good for patients while advancing the overall goals of a new organization. We'll operate in a way that holds down the costs of care while still ensuring the financial support that empowers excellent care, the needed facility and technology investments, and the teaching, research, and outreach mission of the state's only public land-grant university of the Minnesota Medical School. We will respect the unique capacities and market conditions of our providers and their communities while establishing common, high expectations for quality and performance. We will maximize the benefits of the university's teaching, training, and research to expand our service across the state, getting more innovation across the state faster to the people who need it most. We will infuse the values of evidence-based medicine and research and rapid deployment of research innovations to bedside care, treatments, and cures. And we will play an expanding role in the value-based care and other innovative models that will enhance health and control costs for generations. We will have governance that fairly represents all involved organizations. As a public land-grant institution, the university has an obligation to engage in full and transparent public conversation about what Minnesota needs for its healthcare future. What we do here will impact millions of patients and the health of future Minnesota. Without a solution, the continued success and reputation of the University Medical School is in jeopardy, and that jeopardizes our ability to provide great health for the state. There is urgency. The university's existing agreements with Fairview expire at the end of 2026. This timeline has created the need for an urgent and innovative new path forward that puts patients first, for the betterment of both organizations, its physicians, caregivers, and patients across Minnesota. We need a bold new solution to ensure the continued and strong mission support for the University of Minnesota Medical School for teaching and research. Support that is typical at academic medical centers across the country and necessary to support the public mission of the university. We also need to ensure our patients have continuity of care across a broad part of the state, and our caregivers have adequate resources and are training in modern facilities that are updated appropriately. Without this, it would weaken the University of Minnesota Medical School and likely prompt many valued physicians and other providers to leave the university, leave the state, or not come to the state, the great training and medical school that we have. Again, perhaps leaving Minnesota altogether. We remain hopeful that we remain confident, I think, that there's an opportunity to build a shared solution that best meets the needs of the patients in Minnesota, both now and in the future. To reiterate, there remains a strong opportunity to build a truly transformative solution with Fairview Health Services that best meets the needs of patients in Minnesota, both now and in the future.
President Cunningham and I have had many conversations, many productive conversations with community members in recent months. Our newly proposed vision for healthcare has already generated positive reactions from people across the state. Leaders and everyday Minnesotans alike are excited about our shared vision. Yet there are many more transparent and comprehensive discussions to be had. And so as we move forward, the voices of patients, providers, and Minnesotans broadly will play a vital role in this process. The next generation of healthcare will not occur in a single dramatic step, and I think that's a great thing. The sands are shifting beneath our feet all the time. A solution that's an ideal solution today might not be the ideal solution days from now. Yet this vision is built on the idea that these advances will emerge over the coming days, months, and years. As providers, innovators, policymakers, and collaborate to build on the best of what we have and the best of what we can have, we will forge new alliances and capacities for the future. Thank you, Chair Wheeler and the members of the committee for allowing us to be here today. President Cunningham and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Herman. Thank you, President Cunningham. Questions or comments? Regent Turner.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler. I have a question, but first a comment. I was once I heard this plan, I was so excited as a bedside care nurse and a nurse leader who has traveled the state for over a decade and a half. I have seen the constant decline of, diminishment of access for rural communities. And I would focus on our elderly population, that more and more of our rural communities majority are 65 and older. And, for the elderly, community relationships are really extremely important for their mental and physical health. And this was made evident to me way back in 2012 when I spoke with the Thief River nurses. And they explained to me that, in a rural community, an illness or a tragedy, that comes in it affects everybody, because they're either related or they know the person. And so there's a connection that there's no way that you would have as a metro nurse. And so, and that translates also into the care of the patient who does so much better when they're surrounded by people that they babysat them, or they, you know what I mean, or they're friends of the family. That connection is so important for their health. And when you try to ship an elderly person 50, 100 miles away from their environment, it just affects their whole healing process. So I was so excited that we can once again keep what we have, maybe increase what we have as far as healthcare access. Now, the question I have, I've heard said that like take our nursing school. I think we would love to train more people, but it sounds like some of the problems are getting clinical spots. How will this plan help to get more clinical spots for all of our health sciences?
I think first of all, what you said is really true. You know, there's a saying that says it takes a village, but I believe it takes a community. A village is defined by its boundaries, but a community is defined by the relationships within it. And communities stay healthy because of those relationships. We know that people will practice where they train. And part of this bold plan is to provide those training opportunities to be in those smaller communities. Once you develop that affinity with that community, you're much more likely to stay. We have seen that in Duluth with our partnership with the University of Minnesota Medical School and our family medicine residency. There's 8 residents within that program that graduate every year. On an average, 5 of them stay in Duluth or the surrounding area to practice. So we know that that works. But providing those training opportunities, those connections with those smaller communities, I believe makes it much more likely to have the staff, the important caregivers, and subsequently the access to care for people.
If I may, Chair Wheeler and Regent Turner, at the core of more clinical placements are more healthcare workforce across the state. We have to be able to train more healthcare workforce in the places where they really need to be. And as we are able in this model to help train people closer to home, to expand the reach of our clinical and training opportunities, we will have more healthcare providers in northern and rural Minnesota. And when we do that, there will be more clinical placements. So this builds upon itself as opposed to a spiral down.
Thank you very much. Pending others, I have one to ask. I was happily at the Senate hearing yesterday for the Health and Human Services Committee where both of you presented. There were 3 chairs at the podium, and one was unfilled. And that was a partnership that we've had, the university with Fairview, for a long time, and is envisioned to be part of this. Why? They obviously responded quickly, and they said no. And part of that was a complaint that we had given them just 24 hours notice, but they said no. I too think this is a tremendous opportunity to fulfill the vision that was actually articulated in the governor's task force that David and I and Jacob and Dean Delaney served on. So I'm wondering, just a comment about the short notice period that they are not very happy about, and then the quick no, and why that?
Chair Wheeler, thank you very much for the question. The short notice period is not as short as it may seem. So first of all, the board well remembers we were in negotiations with the letter of intent last fall. We provided Fairview an initial offer with the hopes to sit down and negotiate more through that offer. About a week after they received the offer, they rejected that offer. We asked for a counter offer to sit down with us again in our negotiating teams. We did not receive a counter offer. And after we did not receive a counter offer and the negotiating team would not sit down with our negotiating team, we said to them, we have to explore other options. That was well a month before we moved ahead with this. And when it's when we're not able to have the strategic conversations that we need with a partner behind the scenes, then we have to begin public conversations. But really, more importantly, why to have this conversation be public is the impact of what we're talking about here will affect millions of patients and the entire future healthcare for the state, for who we train. And so I am a public figure. We have a public research university with a public mission, and therefore this must be a public conversation. We can't, it would be unacceptable, I believe, to our patients and to our stakeholders for us to only be having conversations in a back room somewhere that potentially shut off great opportunities for the future of the state for health.
Great. Thank you, President Cunningham. I agree with it. We're at a big inflection point, and actually some of what we've relied upon is in peril right now. And there's not only is it at risk, but there's an opportunity here to do something much bigger. And I hope that the conversations continue and are productive. Regent Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with everything that's said. I just wanted to ask, what's the cost of inaction if we don't get them to go along? What happens if Fairview, will not partner with us in this? How do we approach it? And then the question is this just a statement of a CEO, or do we know whether the Fairview board met and had more lengthy discussions?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chair Wheeler and Regent Johnson. Well, I certainly can't speak to the inner working of the Fairview board. I do know that the statement was issued yesterday, and their full board meets for the first time here today. So in terms of what is the cost of inaction, I think we really have to think about, again, the public health and the future health for the state. We're offering a transformative solution that moves us away from transactions, sort of faceless transactions over buildings and payments back and forth, to an integrated solution that could really transform health for the state of Minnesota. So the cost of inaction is the cost of not having a properly trained workforce for the state of Minnesota, for not improving access to rural healthcare in the same way, to not being able to do what Regent Turner asked, and how we work as the public land grant to help have care be closer to home. I think that is the cost of inaction here, and we have to think about the public interest.
Well, and with regard, if I can just do a follow-up to the buildings, we made reference to that. There needs to be renovation and updating of buildings and ownership issues. So how is that affected in this context? We're in the middle of things, obviously, now, but.
Sure. Well, first I'll say I am new, still relatively new, 7 months in to the state. But I do have a view of healthcare across the country. And what I know is from, the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, great healthcare organizations and great academic healthcare organizations around the country are moving to try to have a more integrated model, an integrated model where the physicians and the academic health components and the system are really rowing together, to use a PJ term, in the same boat. Mm-hmm. And let me give you an example of a few names you might have heard of that have been working on moving towards this more integrated model. University of Pennsylvania, Penn State, Hershey, Ohio State, Michigan, every academic health system in the California system, Emory, Duke. Across the country, great academic health systems are moving towards, with a variety of different tweaks and models, but towards a more integrated model. No one in the country is aiming to go to this old model of transactions and 5 million contracts and MOUs that are really not able to be competitive in a healthcare market like this, and not able to fully align the values of the patients and the innovative discovery that's needed. So, as I come in here to the States, there's been a cry for the University of Minnesota to help find a solution for the health moving forward. And what we're trying to do here is to bring a modern approach to academic healthcare, to move it forward to a way that we know the country is overall, many health systems are moving towards, away from this sort of transaction about a building or a payment, to really an integrated model.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say,
Regent Johnson,
that what we are doing here is transformational. We are really looking to do what our president said about transformational and integrated healthcare. I live in an integrated health system. It's fantastic. I mean, honestly, one of the reasons Mayo Clinic has been a great clinic is because it's fully integrated, and you could do so much in that setting. And this little picture transactional kind of things that Fairview is talking about is way at the other end of the spectrum. So.
Thank you. Regent Hipp.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation and thanks for your hard work on this. This is exactly where Minnesota needs to go with healthcare. I come from Perr, Minnesota, which is way up in the north. And for a long time, you know, the rural and urban divide that we've had is because rural feels like they haven't gotten anything. And so now this is something that we feel like we're going to get good health care, and we're going to have people watching out for us. We're going to have a seat at the table. And this is really important. And I haven't talked to anybody in rural Minnesota that doesn't think this is a good idea. And thank you for this work. I didn't know this was a solution until recently, and it's a great solution. So thank you for doing this, and thank you for taking this all the way to the finish line, because this is really, really important to Minnesota. This is exactly what the task force wanted. This is exactly what Minnesotans want, and that's who we're here to serve, as Minnesota. So thank you.
Regent Turner.
Thank you. I don't want to belabor the Fairview's little statement that they did, but they still seem to be talking about the sale of assets, et cetera. And you know, to the nurses at some of the nurse leaders at the Fairview facilities, you know, their big concern is if they have this kind of separation, do they lose providers? And do they, you know, that's some of the concerns that they have, is being able to not affect the patients and their ability to see who they're now seeing. And so that means the medical staff also working with who they're used to working with. And our solution keeps all that intact, correct? And we're not talking about consolidating, you know, because I've heard the concern, you know, some of these towns, you got an Essentia hospital and 17 miles away or 17 minutes away is a Fairview, and is there going to be consolidation? Yesterday you assured us that that is just opposite of what you want to do, and we appreciate that. Also, I would note that I appreciated the fact that as far as the frontline workers, you intend to honor any contractual contracts, et cetera. But I know that one nurse leader at Southdale, that was a big thing, is potential if there's this so-called, what has it been called, divorce or whatever, that the providers that's going to affect the providers. Is that true?
Chair Wheeler, Regent Turner, you know, what we're trying to do is to propose a solution that best benefits patients, that keeps the doctor-patient relationships intact, that best respects our colleagues and in the unions and the great work they're doing with the minimal disruption possible. Proposals that involve transactions or buildings or the end of contracts that would cause us to have to break up many different pieces would no doubt impact our frontline workers and our patients and diminish our opportunity to provide great health care and innovations for the state of Minnesota. And I don't know if my colleague wants to add.
Yep, certainly, Chair Wheeler and Regent Turner. Stability is an important thing. Stability does not mean the status quo, but there are certain places where you need to have that stability, that assurance that the people that I've been working shoulder to shoulder with are going to be working with me shoulder to shoulder tomorrow. The benefits of integration, I can speak from my own experience, both at Mayo with Dr. Regent Johnson and in our healthcare system. We were, quote, integrated. But when I got there, I found that we were in a more of a holding company model. Mm-hmm. And what we decided is that if we were going to be better for the people and communities we're privileged to serve, we needed to fully integrate and become an operating company model. Really, what that's done for us and for the patients we're privileged to serve, it's increased our quality, it's increased our safety, it's increased our ability to serve our communities through other places of care and other specialties of care. It has helped stabilize our bottom line so we can afford to make investments in the people and facilities across. It is a difficult journey. When I first came to Essentia, we had a West Market and an East Market, and we got together. You could tell what market someone was in by the side of the room they sat together. Now everybody sits together because they recognize the power of that integration. I've long believed and have experienced that transactions hinder transformation. And the more that you can build the relationships through conversation rather than transactions and contracts, the better it is for care providers, the better it is for your healthcare system, but most importantly, the better it is for the people and communities you're privileged to serve.
Thank you, Dr. Herman. Regent Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. Just to follow up a little bit on, I was going to call you Dr. Hips. We're talking about medicine so much. Got a promotion. Comments, but with Perham and related. And obviously, you know, we know the people of Minnesota and the legislators of Minnesota care about their communities. And it's not the easiest at this time to get money, funding for higher education of any kind or for medical things. But I believe that as we are in communities and increasingly have a presence there, provide services, you know, that I believe that the legislators and the citizens of those areas will support the university on a greater level. And I think that's just, we're not doing it for that reason, but I think that's just a fact that will follow. That would be my hope.
President Cunningham.
Chair Wheeler, Regent Johnson, I think the University of Minnesota has been in all 87 communities across the state with our extension and with our multiple campuses, and we are indeed here to try to find transformative solutions for people in every county all across the state.
Right.
I think that you know, I'll speak on my behalf, but I think on the behalf of this board, we're very excited about this possibility. Certainly hope the conversations continue. We know there's due diligence between here and there to make sure the care model is right for the patients, the providers, those who do the training, and our innovative solutions, to make sure the math works, that it's sustainable, you know, over time, and to make sure we're using the broader community resources in the best possible way. But I think I can speak for what I've heard from stakeholders around the community and those around this table that we certainly hope we're banking on something new and transformative that brings better health to the state of Minnesota. So hope the discussions continue. We know that there's much to go between here or there, but want to get your perspective on that. President Cunningham.
Chair Wheeler, I wanted to just add, as you're talking about finances a little bit there, that you know, with the many strategic conversations that Dr. Herman and I have had over the past month with our teams that have been working very closely together, you know, not only are we bringing together a solution that could transform and support patient care across the state, but we have a $1 billion problem around healthcare provider training and access in the state. And what we're doing is bringing a $1 billion solution to the state that does not involve a request for taxpayer dollars. Without this moving forward, we still have a $1 billion problem. We have facilities that have been underinvested in. We don't have a care model that continues. You know, we most certainly would need to have a different request to the state if we can't move this forward. However, this is us coming together in very creative ways to find not only a transformative healthcare model for the state of Minnesota, but to do it in a way that would not be cost taxpayers funds. Thank you so much.
No, appreciate that very much, President Cunningham. That's part of the, you know, you came in here day one saying that this healthcare conundrum was an opportunity. It looks like the opportunity is potentially right in front of us, more to learn and understand, but we hope we get an opportunity to further that. And it's, as I think former Commissioner Malcolm wrote in her op-ed about this is exactly, you know, what is needed in terms of something new and transformative for the citizens of Minnesota and all those who serve their care. So thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Herman, for being here and being part of this as well.
Thank you for having me here.
Any other questions or comments before we go?
we believe there are, that great leaders, will continue to see the opportunity that this presents for collaboration to find together great solutions. Thank you.
Great. May it be so. All right. Thank you very much. With that, the meeting's adjourned.